Hello everybody, welcome to My Hero Academia, chapter number 354 review. This chapter is titled, Oopsie Daisy. You can't get a more menacing title than that. But last chapter, number 353, was pretty much showing that Shoto did beat Dabi, and the aftermath of everything that happened there. We cut around to all the areas, and last shot we saw was All For One holding out his hand with quirks coming out of 5 of his fingers. He only has 5 fingers. It was coming out of every finger, I should say. But this chapter, we start with Hawks talking. All For One has one glaring weakness: his life support mask. The data from Stain confirmed that he took off the whole rig with him during his prison break. It's clear that he can't function without it. And this is obviously in the past, sort of, because this is obviously not happened now, because they're sort of just all lounging around. Next we see Best Jeanist, and he's like, surely the man himself knows that better than anyone. And Hawk said, standard practice would be to hit him with sheer numbers, except this guy can seal away quirks. No way are we going to let him take our most valuable fighters and give himself a boost. So we now cut to the present, where Endevor and Hawks are just rushing out All For One. And they're like, so it'll be me and number 1, the strongest small team, hitting him as hard as possible with our combos. And while they're doing this, All For One is throwing one of his, the wind scythe blade quirk, and it's like, ignoring me. How rude. And, Hawk is like Endevor, and Endevor uses the move Hell Curtain, which pretty much makes a huge blast of fire that spreads over a wide area, and then Hawk sends his feathers through it and sets them ablaze and makes them go towards All For One. And All For One is like, such obvious tactics over and over from you, the man who used to be too fast. And All For One is like, since Recovery Girl's efforts couldn't bring you back to your prime, your few remaining feathers need aid from prosthetic ones even to bring you up from this speed. And Hawks is in like, so we're both crippled, eh? Which I really like as an idea, just because it shows that, yeah, you're messed up, All For One. I'm Hawks. I'm going to admit it. I messed up too. This is how we're doing it. And as this happens, it looks like All For One has summoned his acid sludge quirk, and it's like forming a shield on him almost. And Endevor goes hit him with some firepower. And they're like, we can't have our fighters down below getting hit by any sort of shockwave that took out a chunk of Camino. Keep the action close and finish him with point-blank attacks, all without letting him touch us. As Endevor used it, Vanishing Fist, and pretty much punches All For One a bunch of times. And All For One thinks, the intense heat passes through my hard flame fan. I can't react with an impact recoil. And he says, Hawks won't give me any time an opening to strike back. But he also says, but Hawks, your timing doesn't quite match up. It almost seems like Endevor's heart isn't in it. And Endevor then says, let's keep this up, Hawks. We're landing damage on him. He doesn't have anything like hyper regen. As All For One just summons like a massive shield in front of him that takes a bolt of the damage. And All For One's like, behold, Endevor. Everyone is fighting so hard to fulfill their role. Even the novices among them are focused at the battle at hand. So why does it feel like your head is somewhere else? Maybe because your masterpiece mops up your failed experiment? Aren't you delighted? As Endevor goes, shut up. And Hawk says, he's provoking you, just like he did to All Might Camino. Think back. As All For One says, you should know, for ages now, I've had my eye on your twisted longing for power. And the thing about me is, when I come across fertile ground, I can't help but sow seeds. You never did find Toya's body, did you? And Hawks is like, for real? He still had such a nasty card to play. As as we sort of get more info on what Hawks is thinking. And he's like, a man living in order to atone. He can't just make a clean break the way I did. It's obvious. And during this, we sort of see like Endevor just like crying to himself about his family and how Hawks was just able to separate himself from his mom and father just because of how that all worked. And he's still thinking, right now, he could have not fought and beat Dobby. That's why I gotta be here to support him. And Hawks is like, your duty right now is taking down All For One without delay. So keep a cool head. And Endevor just loses his cool and he yells, All For One! And we see now that All For One uses one of his quirks and he gets a massive hit. It looks like a whole side of Endevor is almost missing. Not as bad as damage in Bleach is, but it's still a big attack. And All For One just goes, oopsie daisy. And Hawk is like, Endevor! And All For One goes, now, for you, can you really dodge this range, Nagant's replacement? And Hawk is like, no, I can't dodge. But if nothing else, Endevor can use Prominence Burn. So if I keep him alive, as we see Tokoyami and JIRO appear on the scene, and JIRO uses Heartbeat Wall to help stop All For One's attack. And we see up in the sky, JIRO's like, whoa there, keep it steady, I'm not used to flying, I'm barely holding it together up here. And Tokoyami's like, you must endure, Earphone Jack, and if you don't mind, your rear end, keep your rear end still, or risk flustering me. And JIRO's like, shut up. And Hawk is like, Tsukuyomi, and that Class A girl? Keep back, you've got no place in this fight, he'll slaughter you. But Tsukuyomi or Tokoyami is like, I may be a poor substitute for Endevor himself, but you and I are also capable of teamwork. As All For One says, that the pesky gnats that swarm about One For All. In the old comic I used to read, there were jobber characters who only existed so the Demon Lord could show what he was made of. As in the chapter, we get a cool shot of JIRO as she says, how about you save that line until you've actually beaten us, All For One. And that is the chapter. So my thoughts on this chapter. I know this chapter I accidentally mispronounced a lot of names, but you gotta remember, My Hero has a bunch of names, and if the hero names, each character has 2 names, and All For One and All Might sound so similar to each other, but whatever. It's obvious that All For One's mask is his weakness, so it's interesting that they're beating that, and how Endeavor's just letting All For One get to him almost. So it's very interesting just pulling all of those cards. But it's truly awesome to see JIRO and Tokoyami just show up in the end to have a part in this fight. That's just so cool in my opinion, just because of I didn't expect this. We saw Tokoyami in that one shot, but to now see JIRO here too, it's just really cool altogether. And just what JIRO says at the end, how about you save that line until you've actually beaten us? And Hawks and Tokoyami haven't worked together in the past, and Tokoyami's just like, I may be a poor substitute for Endevor himself, but I'm also capable of teamwork. So I guess you're going to be focusing on the All For One fight now, which is really interesting. So yeah, I'm honestly excited to see what JIRO and Tokoyami do here. And yeah, that's it for this chapter. My Hero chapter 354. That's all I've got to say. This is Glowplasma231 out.